being here. Thank you for being early. Thank you for being the time that you came. Welcome. We're super excited to be with you all. So today, before we start in on our strategic planning, we want to take a moment to acknowledge the land that we are on was inhabited and currently is inhabited by indigenous people. It was purposely taken away, intentionally taken away from them. It's super important to acknowledge the work that we do in wildlife and the work that we are doing with you all. The majority of our staff resides on the land of Yokuts, and we recognize their influence and rights to the land that we live on. So we want to take a moment for you all to identify the land, indigenous land that you currently reside on, and we will put that in the chat. And so the instructions are, we want you to put a land acknowledgement on your own space. So you can use the link in the chat, which has been placed there now. Thank you, Elaine. And take a moment. And then once you have found the indigenous land that you are on, please put it in the chat. Thank you. Good job, Ashley. Thank you. Thank you, Faye, Anita. Thank you. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Melissa, with Mario Cuts. With me walk. Thank you. Perfect. Y'all are doing great. Thank you so much. Yes. Super important to understand what has happened on the land that we reside on. We're doing any type of justice work, or we're doing any type of work, truly. And y'all are doing a beautiful job. Thank you so much. All right. We can move to our next slide. And y'all can keep putting them in the chat. I'm sorry if you hear the banging going on. Perfect. All right. Folks can continue to put the indigenous land that they are residing on in the chat. But I want to introduce to you the Youth Leadership Institute staff, facilitators, and beautiful minds that have been on this work. We have Patty, woo, Patty. We have April, woo, April. We have Monse, yay, Monse. We have Yami, woo, Yami. We have Yante, woo, Yante. We have Elaine. Thank you, Elaine. So these are the brilliant, beautiful minds that came together to get this work together for you today. The past couple of trainings that we've been in together, and with the YLI team or parts of it. Yeah. So now we want to go move into introductions with you all. This is your time. Tell us your name, the pronouns that you use, the organization that you're representing today. And if you're ready, if you want, slide in a cool fact about yourself. So your name, your pronouns, what org you're representing today, and a cool fact about yourself if you're down, if you want to. And you can put this all in the chat. Thank you. Oh, I forgot to do the YLI plug. Also, yes, hit YLI up on our website. Check out our stuff. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for putting your introduction to the chat. Hip Hop Congress, okay. We got the LGBT Community Center in the room, International Rescue Committee. Good morning, y'all. Back in Sacramento. Perfect, y'all are doing great. Yes, please keep putting your introductions in the chat. Name, pronouns, where you coming from. Directed community presence. Sacramento, beautiful, y'all. We are hailing from all over. Dope. We have some strong folks in the room. Some strong orgs in the room. Beautiful. Hey, there's an Aries. Come on, Aries. I am also an Aries. And your middle name is Aries. Ooh. Beautiful, y'all. Oh, I think there's a lot of us in this room. There's many Aries. Good. Perfect, y'all. Thank you so much for putting your introduction. You can continue to put them in there. Beautiful. Someone's fun fact is they've never been able to smell. Somebody has a black belt in Taekwondo, period. Soccer coach. Come on, soccer coach. All right, perfect, y'all. Thank you. You can continue to put the fun facts, your names, pronouns, or where you reside, or what organization you're representing, and we can move on to our next page. All right. Just some Zoom reminders is please rename yourself using your name and pronouns. So the same name or the different name and pronouns that you have that you just put in our chat, please rename yourself and make sure we can see that on your nameplate in your Zoom box. Really helpful for us. Please stay on mute during the training unless you have a question or a comment. And so we don't hear your background noise. It stays respectful to whoever is talking. We will monitor the chat if you want, and you can drop in any questions. So if you don't want to come off mute at all, that is cool. We can handle that too. You can drop it in the chat and someone else will say it out loud on UILI staff. We'll utilize the reaction buttons, especially the thumbs up and the thumbs down. We use those a lot. We love the emojis. Give us hearts, give us claps, give us celebration, whatever you're feeling. It helps us track the room as well. All right, so those are our Zoom reminders. Moving on to our community agreements. Our community agreements allow us to keep a safe space and make sure we have the expectations that we need in the room. So our community agreements, I'll take care of yourself, get that water, get that bathroom break, embrace the awkwardness. It's okay if there's silence, you do not have to feel it. And it's okay if everyone's feeling a little awkward. We're fine, we'll be okay. Be present to listen and to learn. That's pretty explanatory. Be present, be there. Take space, make space. So if you're a person who is like, I know all the answers to all the questions and my hand's gonna always be raised, we love that. Thank you for your energy. And make space, right? We wanna also allow those folks who do not get to have a lot of space to ask questions or make comments. If you're a person that does the opposite and you take up less space, challenge yourself to take up more space. Ask all the questions, answer all the comments, you know? Embrace the nuance. There is a lot of gray area in a lot of the work that we do in our lives. It is okay for this not to be a hard yes, a hard no, a black and white response, a black and white understanding. That is a nuance. We are here to embrace it. Intent versus impact. And your intent being, my intent was this for to be funny. The joke did not land and your impact was this. Your intent may have been something different and the impact was what caused harm. The impact is more important. The thing that caused harm is more important. That is what we are going to center on. So when we hold intent versus impact, understand the thing that you are coming, the place that you are coming from, and understand what you are responding to. Use I statements. Speak from your own experience. Don't take other experiences from other people. And lastly, have fun. We want to kick it with y'all. We want to joke. We want to be happy. We want to play really good music. So to do that, we have to have fun and we have to trust that you will also have fun with this. So time to use those reacts. Can I get a thumbs up if you're like, yes, these Zoom reminders, yes, these community agreements. If you're good with these, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. Perfect. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you, Rose. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Omar. Thank you, Mason. Perfect, y'all. All right. Boom. Now we can move over to our training objectives. All right. So these are our training objectives. Before we move into the meat of all the things, why are we doing the things? So our training objectives are: participants will understand the steps and benefits of campaign planning. Participants will learn about targets and tactics. Participants will practice using said tools that will support them in planning their own campaigns. So we are talking about that strategic planning, getting the meat of targeted tactics, understanding what our problem is, what our issue is, and how do we beat it, right? How do we solve it? So those are our training objectives. And now we'll move into talking more about strategic planning. Strategic action planning is the title of today's training. We'll be talking specifically about youth-led campaign planning. YLI, young people work, young people voice, young people power, right? So we'll be talking about youth-led campaigning. So we want to check for understanding and do a Mentimeter with you all. So we're going to put the Mentimeter in the chat, and we want to share your confidence level in planning for a youth-led campaign. So the person that is sitting in that seat right now, where are they? And we're going to put the link in the chat, and it is already there. Thank you, Elaine. And so we are answering, do you feel you can confidently plan a youth-led campaign? Strongly disagree or strongly agree? I'm gonna wait for them to trickle. If you cannot access the Mentimeter code, which is in our chat at this moment, you can also go to menti.com and use the code 7422-9429. Perfect. And now the things are trickling in. People are high on the strongly agree. Good. Waiting for some more folks. All right, now we're more in the middle. And for folks coming in, welcome. We are on a Mentimeter right now, and we are answering the question, do you feel confident in planning a youth-led campaign? And the code is 7422-9429, and I have put it in our chat. All right, you're welcome, Sam. All right, folks. So we have a middle range, right? It's looking like we are in the middle. We're between that strongly agree, strongly disagree. Hope it's having difficulty skipping. I can't access scale, but I do not feel confident, so I'm a strong 1 or 2. That's okay. Cool, Jasmine. Thank you for putting in the chat. Felt, right? So we got some folks feeling not that confident, in the middle. We had some strongly agrees, but a lot of us are in this middle point. Glad you're at the training, right? So now we're going to dive in and break down what even is campaigning, what is youth planning, what is strategic planning, and what does youth campaigning look like? And so thank you all for participating. And the YLI model will help us. So the YLI model is leadership development. So it's youth to build holistic leadership skills such as public speaking, analyzing root causes of issues, cultural competency, cultural competent healing, and more. We have research. Youth are the researching their community needs through youth-led participatory action research and other methods. So young people are figuring out the issues. Young people are figuring out how this issue came to be. Another YLI model is storytelling. Youth are shaping the narratives of their community stories through digital and print stories, podcasts, videos, and more. And then lastly, campaigning. Campaigns. YLI young people and partners have led over 130 policy changes across California. Campaigns are a building block for the YLI model because it allows our young people to exercise their power as community stakeholders, right? This is young people having the power to be like, this is an issue in our community. What do we do about it? And then they do it, right? So campaigning is the building block of youth organizing. It's the building block of YLI, and it's giving young people the voice, right? Which is all of why, that's all YLI does, is giving young people back that power and that voice. So campaigning is central to our work, and campaigning can be central to many, many people's work. All right, and now we can move over to the next page. And I'll pass this to Yami, but this is another visual of our YLI model.
Thank you so much, Yante. It's so awesome to be with all of you once again. I feel like it's been incredible to meet some of you individually and your organizations and the incredible things that you're doing in your cities. We've been able to meet during the office hours. I encourage you to sign up for those office hours if you haven't already done so. we can talk about the different work that you're doing, and any type of insight that we can give or feedback. That's what we're here for. And this is just one of the examples. I just remember from our conversations, the work that you all are doing. Some of you are thinking about youth empowerment centers and how to make sure that our school districts are more youth friendly, and that there is more restorative justice models in our schools. There's definitely some prevention issues that y'all are working at, looking to make sure that young people have access to all of the resources that they need. And the example that we're sharing here is on health justice. So we're going to give an example that while I had worked on with young people over numerous years to be able to, for it to come to fruition. And all of these 4 pieces you're going to see in this example that I'm going to give you. There was leadership development. There was research that young people conducted. There was storytelling that they gave through media. And the overall campaign that they did to address the issue of liquor store saturation in their impoverished communities was the main campaign, but there was many campaigns in between, and I'll share that with you. It really was important to keep the momentum going. So this is just one quick look to be able to see how many young people engaged. There was 80 young people that engaged. There were 16 partners that were activated because of the work, and you'll see the variation of all the folks who were a part of that process. There was numerous residents, thousands and thousands of residents that were impacted. And what a neat thing to look at this at a glance. But this is 8 years of work that came into play. So let's go on to this next slide. So campaign planning. In your experience, let's use the chat. Why is campaign planning important? Why is it important to do so? Because that's what we're doing today. We're going to take the pieces of the action planning portion of campaigns, of youth-led campaigns, and how it's so important to be able to put that into practice. Why is it important? Share with me. Why is it important? Why it is important? Yes, helping to change minds and hearts. To educate, awareness. Yes, thank you, Natalie. Why else is it important? Hearing from appropriate voices. Yes, having all folks that need to be heard at these tables, right? Yes, thank you so much, Benita. To be thoughtful on how to make the biggest impact. Most definitely. Inclusion, yes. Intentional and effective execution, yes. Empowering young people to be brave and to speak up out to others, yes. Youth activism, building youth power, yes. Being on the ground with community and including their voices, it helps with messaging, it sure does. And I think you all are answering this next question is why not just start scheduling meetings, hosting events, and executing tactics? Because you are describing this in the chat, that it does help to be more strategic in accomplishing the goal. And it really makes sure that you are on track. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Love this. Ensures alignment. Yes, especially with your partners that you're working with, because we cannot walk alone on the work that we're doing. We need that partnership. It's so important. To quicken the transfer of influence, yes. And so that we can measure the level of impact from the campaign and make sure we meet our goals. Most definitely. Thank you, Edgar. And on that note, we're going to go on to the next slide. Thanks so much, everyone, for sharing and how important it is for us to make sure that we do effective planning and that we prepare. So we, as paid leaders of our organizations, we receive grants, we receive foundational dollars, we receive other types of dollars. That means that we need to be able to share this power, because sometimes, because we have the deliverables, because we have all these things that we have to meet, We know, what we have to accomplish, and it can easily be forgotten that young people are not a part of that. So in order for us to make change, we have to make sure that young people are in those spaces and that they are working with us to make that change. We need to share power. And if those of you that attended the youth and adult partnership training that we did earlier on, this is an example that we wanted to share with you that showed young people and adults and partners from all pieces of the community to work together. Thanks so much. Let's go on to this next one. So I'm about to introduce this video. This is the video of the history component to the liquor saturation issue. We had nonprofit organizations that were working with young people who were partners alongside with Wildlife. We had some elected officials who were partners. We had retailers who were partners, and we also had some faith groups that were partners. So let's go ahead and listen in on the work.
The youth's first response immediately following the shootings was actually to get out into the neighborhood. We really wanted to see the injustices and the issues and the hurt firsthand for ourselves.
We trained young people through the partnership with Wildlife to say, young people, we need to be able to collect youth-led action research that shows why we need to make change in this community, that shows that the amount of negative advertising is unbelievable, that shows that the amount of liquor stores in our neighborhood is astronomical.
Did some door knocking, got to know our neighbors and their opinions. We asked them what issues do they want to see fixed, what hurt are they seeing, what injustices are they seeing, and many of them agreed with us that there was not access to these healthy outlets.
Especially at Roosevelt High School where I go, there are 40 liquor stores in a 1-mile radius, and they're all plastered with advertisement everywhere.
Done things like take a look at marketing that's been done by the alcohol companies and targeting our youth. And we've also done things like asset mapping. So any way that we have been able to improve our community, I'd like to be a part of that.
They had to go and connect with the corner store owners to say, we want to create a relationship with you. You have this store in our community, and we would love for you to be more community friendly. Can you pledge not to sell alcohol to minors? Can you pledge to be more family friendly place and not place your alcohol by any types of products that attract children? And most of the store owners said yes.
So the billboard work is a positive advertisement to help fight, get out the negative advertising that's going around with the liquor stores.
So we used hashtag #MySoberSwag on the billboard. And then we also have a picture of like graduates and then like people from just in cap and gowns, and then like hugs or like football players. And it was really awesome because it was saying that if you keep on going without drinking or making a bad decision, you're gonna get there.
I believe in Sept because I believe in the power of the youth voice. I believe that our youth have unique perspectives that are really important for our city officials to hear and care about.
We need to be listening to the youth. We need to make sure that as the youth are telling us and engaging us, that we are incorporating their ideas into our decision-making models. So it's a relationship that elected should have with the youth. Any movement that ever had any significance in our country, it was always led by the youth.
This truly is a community-based model. This work can't be done alone by the young people. It can't be done alone by adults. It's youth and adults working together.
As a teacher in Fresno Unified School District, I think it's very important to be part of our communities and help improve them.
As a Fresno Pacific University student, I saw how crucial it was for me to be involved in the work of Sept. It is important for me and for others to recognize this social injustice.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And shout out to Cody, who's helping us with the videos and all that. Thank you so much, Cody. Snaps of you. You're awesome. This video was created to be able to share the story earlier on in the campaign. That's why we call it the history of the liquor saturation work. At this point in time when the video was created, there wasn't even an ordinance that had been established yet. We were still trying to build the base. I love what Angela said about widening the wisdom circle, because that's exactly what this video was created for. We were going to different orgs, we were going to different faith groups to say, hey, you need to join us because we are trying to lift up the voice of South Fresno and we can't do this alone. So it was important for us to make sure that we had people at the table that could support the work, but actually to share, their thoughts and their ideas and how this could be just an incredible work with everyone at the table. Young people sharing their voices definitely shifts power. When you share the story of youth and they are able to speak through it through their lens and through their experiences, it's just amazing. You saw that we had young people from Roosevelt High School, which was one of the targeted areas. And I think most of us experienced this in our marginalized communities, where in one corner right by Roosevelt High School, there was like 6 access points to alcohol. So 6 liquor outlets in one corner, which is just ridiculous. And there is a state law that says that you can only have 4 liquor outlets in one census tract if you're trying to approach your city council members to address that issue. Know that that is a state law. Well, we were in major violation of that state law. So let's go ahead and go on to this next slide. So this is the beginning of it. We had young people, we had adult allies, we had college students, we had teachers, we had all these different folks that had come to the table, and they were able to advocate with their city council members and were able to get a resolution passed at the end of 2015. So this resolution passed at the end of 2015. You'll see all the yeses right there on the city council member votes. However, it was only a resolution. The resolution just said that they were supportive of the issue, which is one of the first accomplishments that you can when you're trying to make community change, is get that support, right? But a resolution alone doesn't have any meat to it. It's not a law, it's not an ordinance. So I think the first step for us was to make sure that we got all these folks on board, and we did with the resolution that passed. However, as you all know, delegations changed and city council members changed. So new people came on board. So, we had to go and advocate every single year to make sure that the new city council members knew about the issue. And then you start to run into folks that aren't as supportive as, original delegations or folks that you had talked to before. So the youth-led campaign continued. Because we needed to make sure that that momentum was still alive, our overall arching goal was to reduce saturation of liquor outlets. But we did mini campaigns in between. And the mini campaign was the My Sober Swag that the young people came up with. And they said, we're tired of driving down our streets in South Fresno and just seeing all this negative advertising. So they came up with this idea to do, to buy out the billboards. We got a small grant and we were able to buy out billboards for like 6 weeks at a time, which was, a significant amount of time. And they were able to do those small celebrations. They did the unveiling of the billboard. And it was incredible to celebrate them as they were continuing to do their work. Because remember, some of the high school young people were graduating from high school and they were going on to college. And so, even them being in college, they still wanted to be engaged since they were attending local universities. So then finally, in 2019 and 2020, the campaign became a law. So after so much work from 2012 of gathering information, door knocking, talking to community members, hosting town halls and all of that, finally, we were able to have an official law in 2020. So let's go on to this next slide. And you'll see some of the media that came about. We had ABC do a story on the young people working with our champion on this issue, who was City Council member Miguel Arias. And he was our champion at that on this issue, which is so important to make sure that you do have someone that is willing to step up, that you do have someone that is willing to really listen to the young people and work with them. And so after 8 years, young people were able to deal with this issue of liquor license limits and saturation in their community. So let's go on to this next slide. So here's this community wheel, such an important piece to community change work, knowing that community change takes time. We looked at the different pieces here and we said, okay, who is not at the table? At one point in the campaign, I think like in about 2014, like 2 years in, we realized our retailers are not at the table. We did not have businesses at the table. And little did we know, I think there was a fear. There was a fear there of approaching retailers to ask them to be a part of this because of the limitation of liquor outlets. But what ended up happening is we had a cup of coffee, the youth had a cup of some orange juice. They ate some Egg McMuffins at McDonald's with some of the retailer owners. And we met with them early in the morning, and it turns out that they were feeling the same way. They were tired of the violators. They were tired of the folks that were not community friendly, and they were willing to stand by us, which was a major outcome in the campaign. And you'll see all these different pieces around this table, and we had quite a few folks from this wheel there. Let's go on to the next slide. So here is a timeline that you will refer back to in our next exercise. But so 2012, young people expressed concern on the violence in the community. This was actually a church youth group that had experienced a drive-by shooting. One of the young people's homes had been violated in that way. And so the young people wanted to support them and say, okay, we want to do something. We want to speak out on this. Then we identified the issue, and which took some major efforts on doing assessments and talking to community members. There was town halls. There was a reassessment, like I said, in 2014. We had to look at that community wheel. Who's not here? How do we need to continue to build this base? How do we make them a partner? We actually did a block party and recognized retailers who were community friendly, and that was a good way to bring them into the campaign. There was a positive advertising billboard campaign in 2015. We also did it again in 2016, so 1 year right after. Young people advocated in 2016 for stricter storefront signage, and they actually strengthened the law to have only 15% of windows covered. If you know about the Lee law says that 33% of windows must be covered. That's a state law, but you can go to your city and you can say, we want a stricter law. So young people were able to advocate for that in 2016 and got it passed in 2016. So, and then, like I said, we had this ordinance, which the young people had worked on for so many years, that finally passed in 2020. So let's go on to this next slide here. And I'm going to pass it on over to Yante, and he's going to introduce us to our next activity.
Thank you, Yamir. So the young people that did this liquor store saturation campaign had to go through steps, right? For them to get any policy change, for them to even articulate the issue, they had to go through strategies, tactic, and target. This is the strategic action part, right? Like, this is the planning that has to go into the big action, the young people sitting in front of officials or changing policies. They have to go through the strategy part. So the problem tree is a really, really, really good way to articulate, to visualize issues, right? And so the problem tree as a structure, we use the tree because it visualizes the whole growth of an issue in the ways that they are connected. So the roots are the root issues. The bark on the tree is the strategy, and the leaves are the tactic. So if you look at target, strategy, and tactic, we can move on to defining these things. So targets are the people or persons or collective or entity who have the power to give you what you want. They have the power to move and make change. And then you move on to strategies, our bark. A strategy is a plan to accomplish the goals of a campaign. So these are the things that are, how are you going to do this? What tools are you going to use? Who are you going to talk to? How are you going to talk to them? And then you have your tactics. Your tactics are the tools used to achieve the campaign. So as we move through this like tree visualization, you need to identify your strategy to move up to your tactics to identify the tools that you'll need. So if we think about the liquor store saturation campaign, we can move on to our next slide. So I want you all to start thinking about the liquor store saturation campaign. As we watch the video, as we listen to Yami go through and talk about what the young people have to do to get this to happen, we're going to put you all into smaller groups to reflect on the autonomy of the campaign, to more deeply explore all the steps the young people had to take. So your reflection questions are: what stood out to you in the example shared? What was the issue? What kind of leadership roles did the youth play? And who were the decision makers? So now you have to figure out who those target important people are. So those target folks, what strategies and what tactics. And then while you're in your group, you're going to nominate that one person to speak out in the large group once we're all back together. So we're going to send you into a small group share first of 4 or 5 folks. And then the purpose of this small group activity is to reflect on the autonomy of the campaign. So we want you to go through the questions. We want you to talk about how you felt after watching the videos, and we'll send you into those groups now and put your questions in the chat. Before you all go. Yes, the tree visual was pretty dope. Here are your reflection questions. And we are moving you all into breakout groups. All right, your breakout groups should be open. Please click into a breakout group, and we will see you soon. Oh, perfect. Welcome back, folks. Oh, my God. Welcome back. I hope your groups talk. I hope y'all got through some of the questions. It's totally okay if you didn't get through all of them. We get it, we understand, but welcome back. Wait for all the folks to trickle in. All right. Welcome, folks. Oh. Hope your groups went well. We understand if we did not get through all of the questions, totally understandable. But we do hope that you put that liaison up. You have that one person from your group that is wanting to speak and talk, because we are going to move into large group share and debrief with each other. So our debrief questions are: what stood out to you in your conversation, and what was surprising? And any group can start. Or if group 1 is ready, let's do it. So large group debrief questions are: what stood out to you in your conversations, and what was surprising? And any group can go first. Also, no worries, Jasmine. We can share. Oop, there's a hand raised, and you may go, and we can share this with you all because it is being recorded.
Hi, my name is Raquel. I was with Sam and Rose. So we were kind of pointing out, one, that it was interesting to see the players' involvement, and when they got engaged. We were noting, like, once they were able to get the businesses on board, the people who are small business owners, right, and probably constituents of the city council members, then that kind of shifted the narrative to also supporting a small business that was struggling too. I thought that was kind of a great insight. And then Sam, I think it was Sam who was discussing, kind of what are the other effects of this change, right, for liquor and alcohol in that particular neighborhood. Did anything else change? Was there more food in that area? We were all familiar with that part of Fresno. And so it'd be interesting to go and drive through there now and see how the feel is, what the vibe is, if it feels different now that these laws have been enacted and there's better regulation.
Yeah, thank you so much. Amazing job, group. Then I see Mason's hand up.
When we were in our group, one of the things that we were very surprised by in this example is the longevity of the youth involvement. It shows like how passionate they were. And then it shows also, that the at least from knowing the youth that I work with and my experience, like the trust and the support that they felt from people who are supporting them in leading this effort. So I thought that was pretty incredible.
Right, young people are sustaining the movement by sustaining themselves. They're staying in the work. Their passion is sustaining them. The amount of days that they have in between meetings is sustaining them. Absolutely. And that is super, super important. Thank you. And I see Faith, then Tara's hand.
All right. Thank you so much. This is Faith Galati with Breakthrough Sacramento. What stood out to us in the example shared was the youth leadership being drawn all the way through some much more mature activities, like being involved in interviewing door to door, creating those campaigns and messaging to their peers, and being involved with the presentations with community leaders. I think that, it is easy for adults to step in and pick up and handle these things, but pushing our youth to the forefront, there were so many opportunities for great outcomes when those impacted are the voices speaking. So I loved what stood out to me was leveraging the youth, the impacted youth, holding that issue up in front of people to whom it should matter. And also, on a little side note on this is when youth are involved with activities like this, the empowerment for them, the side benefit of them gaining strength on how they effectively approach issues of social justice it's profound, and it develops their self-confidence. And if they're looking at higher education, these are all wonderful things for them to use to build their college resumes as well. So all the way around, it's a win-win for youth as well as the community.
Yes, young people learn transferable skills, right? They are able to be community organizers, but they're able to understand what policy work is. They're understanding the intersections of like grassroots organizing and government, right? Like these things intersecting and making change. Absolutely. Thank you for highlighting that. And then Tara, and then Omega, I see your hand.
Yeah, this is Tara. I think I was in group 8. It might have been 18, but we had a cool talk. One issue that came up was just the importance of the actual topic that was addressed with liquor stores targeting advertising to youth, and that is particularly an issue in a lot of Native communities. We were really impressed with the change they were able to make in that area. We also really loved the the empowering opportunity of those young people meeting directly and in person with merchants and business owners, and just how much that can show young people that their voice does matter and that people do care what they have to say and are willing to listen to them. There was a lot of talk about that. And what was surprising to us was just the number of youth who were involved in that project and who followed through with it. I think that's an issue for a lot of organizations working with teens is the numbers of teams that you can keep committed and engaged. And we were really impressed with the numbers of young people it looked like were working on that project. So thanks for sharing it.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Then I see Omega's hand. And I believe this is our last person. Perfect.
Okay, hello. My name is Omega Moore. I'm with SBX Youth and Family Services. I was in group 15 with Omar and Norma, and we really appreciated this example. It showed us a lot with what's really on the rise, with these organizations, youth and engagement, giving them the opportunity to have a voice. We were actually all like in agreement. We all talked, and we can't believe how smart and intelligent our youth really are, and giving them the platform to speak and be able to tell the community, like, hey, this is what we want in our community, this is what we want to see, instead of, just the normal peer pressure as what they go through every day. Their minds are already on the horizon. They're like, this is what we're focusing on. And the fact that they even have the mindset to be able to campaign and speak up for themselves and strategize is really, really a good thing. Advocacy, giving them a voice, allowing them to be decision makers in their future. I feel like that was really, really an impact. And yeah, I feel like youth participation is just always very helpful in any kind of community engagement opportunity.
Beautiful, beautifully said. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And it sounds like y'all are coming to really, really sound and dope conclusions. And always revisiting the idea that young people got it. Young people know, young people understand their power, and it's up to us as their adult allies to utilize that, right? To make sure we house that and support that and uplift that. And y'all are doing great. Amazing work, folks. So we now want to shift you all into a 5-minute break. And so we will be back at 11:10. Yes, 11:10. Sorry, y'all. I had to look at the clock. So 11:10 will be our reconvening time. See you all later. Beautiful job, y'all. See y'all in 5 minutes.
For that recording. All right, I see some thumbs. Yes, thank you. Thank you. We're back here live from the Zoom call. All right, so hopefully you had a good break. So now we're gonna move into 2 tools. One you'll recognize and one maybe you'll be familiar with this. So we just wanna go over them. And these are just tools, that you can have in the back of your pocket throughout your planning. And I think one really quick recap that I wanna kind of bounce back from our first hour with Yami and with Yante is remembering that capacity building also doesn't stop. So throughout all this time, you saw these 7 years of young people really continuing the work and taking one win and building upon the other, which is one of my favorite things about this particular policy and all the work that our Fresno office did, which I'm super proud of them. Like, the resolution could have been the win, right? The Lila impact and policy could have been the win, but they said like, hey, there's another level to this. There's more that we can do. There's a way that we can reach county level wins. And there's a way that 535,000 people in Fresno could be impacted in the long run. So just to say that all of that wouldn't be happening if our young people weren't continuously being built their capacity. And that goes for the young people that started this project and for all the new young people that came in. So I think part of our planning is to incorporate that as well, and to see like where can we have points throughout our time to continue to build the skills of young people so that they're ready to, you know, support every single part of this campaign. So that's just one reminder for you all, to keep that in mind. And one of those ways is to utilize these SMARTY goals. So, you know, just based on a show of thumbs, how many of you are familiar with SMART goals? Maybe you've done something before, you've used them before. Cool. Yeah. Yeah, so, you know, lots of us are familiar with those. Some of us, this is the first time we're hearing about them. So originally, SMART goals is just the top part. You know, when you're building out a plan, when you're building out a strategy, you want that particular goal to be strategic. And for this purpose, that means that it reflects an important dimension of what you want the organization to accomplish, both programmatic. You know, in the Fresno policy, they wanted to reduce alcohol density. They wanted to reduce access of alcohol in their community. That was everything, and around it was based on a strategy to reduce alcohol density in that community. Is it measurable? You know, do we include standards by which reasonable people can agree on whether the goal has been met? Again, like if we see a reduction from 10% to 5%, that's really measurable and something that we can see, something that we can touch, something that we can physically see a change. Is it ambitious? You know, we're going for the big win. Is it challenging enough that the achievement would mean significant progress? And that could also be measured in different ways, but it's a stretch for the organization. Maybe this is the first time that we're doing policy work. Maybe this is the second time that we're doing policy work, but in a different issue. Like, is it helping us stretch as an organization and kind of go back and forth into like, what kind of resources do we have? Like creating that conversation within our organizations is also part of the planning. Because then you're realizing like, maybe we were not set up for this, but we can do it. Or, hey, we have everything we need to win, so let's do it. Is it realistic? You know, is it not so challenging to indicate lack of thought about resources, capacity, or execution? In our very first opening question, we talked about the importance of why plan. Like we can't just go and do test this and test that, or we could do that, right? But what purpose would that serve? Realistically, we want steps that allow us to always be thinking about the main goal, always be targeting the folks that have the decision power or influence those that have the decision power. And that saves us time and energy because we are people too, and we need to take care of ourselves and all of this as well. And that's a whole nother training that we will talk about, but part of that planning could happen in the R. Is this something that's realistic? Am I going to be working 14 hours a day to make this happen? Or can I work 8 hours a day and do the best that I can so that I can go back to my family and give them the best that I have too? Is it time bound? You know, we have 1 year to make this happen. Is it reasonable that we're going to get through the whole policy, or is it reasonable that we're going to target and find a champion throughout this year? Those goals really depend on you and your organization, and you know, so many factors that you'll have the time to be able to think about. And the 3 additions that we have to these SMARTY goals is 1, inclusive. So I think the original SMART goals didn't keep into account that we work with many different communities, and each community is different. And like, that's the whole purpose of why we're doing this work, because we see that communities are being impacted differently than others. So therefore, decision-making power or policy-making power is shared differently. And that goes into equitable as well, right? Like in the Fresno example, Fresno has been known as the drunkest city in the nation, maybe in the world, I don't know. But that's already enough to make sure that we need to be able to plan and make that a little bit more equitable so that systematically Fresno can lower those rates. And one way to do it was to do it through licensing and through density of those community and alcohol outlets. And the why, which I think is our favorite here, is youth voice. Is it really including participation of young people throughout the process? Is our planning process, our goals aligned with having young people be part of that? And you can think about our youth and adult partnership training and the Hearts Ladder and all those different points that young people could be included or could lead as well. So I know that was a lot. So take a moment to look at this one more time. Looks like some of you are familiar with the SMART part. But now we're thinking about how do we add inclusiveness, equitable, and youth voice. And for that, I have a couple of examples that we can kind of walk through that. If we can go to the next slide here. So we have a SMART goal, right? Like the SMART goal could look like building a volunteer team of 100 door-to-door canvassers by May. That has a very strategic, it's to build out a goal canvassing. We want it to be measurable, so we want 100. We want it to be, what was the 8 again? Ambitious, right? Like maybe 100 by May is a little tight, but it helps us stretch. Is it realistic? Yes, May is just around, is a very good month because the elections are, maybe in June. So doing that a whole month ahead is going to be helpful. Is it timely? There's a date by which we need to do it, which is May. So how can we take this SMART goal and create it into a SMARTY goal? Anybody want to unmute, want to share it in the chat to take your best guess as to how can we make this SMART goal be inclusive, equitable, and also include youth voice? And I'll give you a moment to kind of think through that. Anybody want to take a guess? No right or wrong answer here. Youth-led volunteers to reflect the community. Nice, Xochitl. Thank you for that addition. So let's go to the next slide here and see what we have. A SMARTY goal would be with the addition of at least 10 youth of color, like Xochitl mentioned, recruited as volunteer leaders first, so that they can help shape the way that we run the canvases. So they have some decision-making power. We're not just including youth voice, but we're giving them a leadership role where they can actually set the scene as to, like, maybe they know that, all the doors that we should knock to are in this community, and that's the community that's most impacted. We wouldn't have that if we just had the goal of 100 canvassers. And Matthew shared for inclusive, maybe seeing out volunteers who is missing in the room, asking that key question, if we had the data on which groups of community members are most impacted by gambling, for example, we can include them in the outreach planning and canvassing form to inform our messaging. Yes. And Jessica shared, inclusive would be to include other forms of canvassing, like phone banking for youth with disabilities. Beautiful. Like, you're all thinking of all the different ways that we can just include more folks. And that's part of the planning, and it makes your planning more interactive, but also people are more invested in it. There's more buy-in from the community when they get a chance to be part of the planning process, which we think like only the leaders or only the folks running the campaign. Yes, we have our responsibilities, but we also have our responsibility to share that power and to share that ability to, like, let people know that this is about them and to center their voice and to make sure materials are in additional languages. Yes, you're all on fire here. So let's do one more example here. And Matthew, I see a question. Can you share an example of building equity? Can we go back to the next one? I think I talked about, like, hey, maybe with at least 10 youth of color, that's one level as well. Like, maybe this, let's be very clear about like whose communities we're trying to tackle here, and recruited as volunteer leaders first, so that they can help shape the way we run the canvases. Like, maybe they know something that we don't know. Maybe they know that, or maybe they know something that aligns with the data that we have that these specific communities and neighborhoods are the most impacted by alcohol density, by gambling, by tobacco density, whatever the issue is. And we're making an effort to canvass those areas because we know that equitably, those areas are most impacted and would benefit the most from our efforts and hearing from them. So that's one way that I think we can build inequity. Does that answer your question, Matt? Yes, okay. And just to read Beth's here, help the youth take initiative in how they're delegating and finding creative ways to canvas. Yes, definitely. So you got it here. So let's do one more question, one more example here. So our SMART goal is holding meetings with 3 elected officials to discuss policy change by May. Again, it has the S, it has the M, it has the A, has the R and the T. How can we add inclusiveness, equity, and youth voice? So I'll give you a quick minute here to think about it and share with us in the chat, or feel free to unmute. Matt shared for youth voice, support youth to be the ones leading this meeting and designing the questions they want to ask, and scaffold appropriately with mentorship from other experienced youth in our program or from an adult ally. Yes, thank you so much. So this isn't just a meeting that we're gonna throw young people into and say like, just share your story or have this tokenizing vibe to it, right? Like we plan for it. So part of the inclusiveness is to plan with them early on, not one day before the meeting or 1 week before the meeting, but plan since the beginning and be able to say like, hey, we're gonna invest in our public speaking skills, we're gonna invest in our decision-making skills, we're gonna build your capacity to feel confident in this meeting so that you don't allow any decision makers to take this moment to tokenize or to manipulate or to just decorate your presence here. And equity as well, like it's a little bit easier, I think, with equitably when you're working with elected officials. There's already districts or areas that they serve. So we want to make sure that equitable representation is from those districts, and it would be strategic to have folks from those communities be part of the meetings, be constituents in those meetings as well. And schedule meetings to be held at youth accessible times. Yes, thank you so much for naming that. After school or during breaks, and make sure that the officials are aware of this. The youth are taking time out of their schedules too. We're not gonna have a meeting at 10 a.m. just because it works for us, right? Or because it works for the decision maker. So I couldn't have said it better. So thank you, Raquel, for naming that. All right, can we see one of the answers? Our SMARTY goal would be like with 2 to youth leaders of color trained and prepared first. Yes, so that they can lead and facilitate the agenda. Everything that we named here, and there's many more ways that we can, make this a more SMARTY goal, but you get the idea. You have this tool now to kind of think about your planning and how to make sure that you're incorporating these 3 additional letters that we talked about. So with that, let's move on to our next activity here. So this is something that you already did before. So we got started on it through our policy advocacy training. And we thought that it was appropriate to bring it back to give you some more time now with the knowledge of the policy advocacy and some planning and strategic action. Like we can go back to this tool and kind of build that muscle of like, we're always going back to this tool. We're always going back to our planning, and we're always re-strategizing what that looks like to make sure that everything that we're doing is with an intention and that we keep equity and inclusion and youth voice in mind. So we're gonna, we actually have a reference document this time to kind of give you a chance to, and Elaine is gonna share the reference doc, which is what what's here in your screen. And this is an example of a Lila project that we did in Half Moon Bay in San Mateo County. And it kind of walks you through the visioning, which could be the long-term, short-term goals, the constituent allies and opponents, who they were, our targets, and our tactics. And it kind of walks you through the timeline that we created for that, just as a reference of when you're about to do the same with your own document. So the next document that we're going to share on, we're going to put you back in your groups that you had initially. You're going to create a copy for your group and then start filling it out. And you have the choice of using the example below. Maybe you're doing a Lila project as well, or your group wants to choose like, hey, we want to focus on, you know, tobacco density, and that's what you agree to. That's your topic. Or you can choose your own campaign issue and take this, you know, these next 20 minutes to kind of think about your own campaign at this point in time. And then we're going to come back to the group and share any debrief, anything that came up for folks during this activity. Do the directions make sense? Give me a thumbs up. Any questions? We want this activity to be either a time for you to get familiar with the document or a time to just jump in. You have that flexibility. And you have the copy in the chat. So now we're going to open up the breakout rooms and have you be out there for about 17 minutes, 17, 18 minutes. And we're here. We're going to be kind of jumping around in the groups too to see if there's any support. All right, I think that's everybody, right?
Yeah, I think they're all in their groups. Maybe give them a minute or two to connect with each other, meet each other.
Yes.
Yeah, that would be good. Good job, Monse.
Folks, of how this went for you, any reflections that you may have on what bubbled up for your group during this time. And I don't know if you want to reiterate what you shared, Faith, or if you want to pass the mic to someone else.
Sure. So this is Faith Galati at Breakthrough Sacramento. While my group, we were in there, but I don't know where everybody was. I think we were all just working on it. But what I wanted to point out personally was I wanted to find out how much time had transpired. And you indicated this was over a 2-year period. And then I indicated that I found that this chart was actually quite helpful. I went back through, I made a copy of it and started adjusting it for my own use and really found it easy to use and quite helpful. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. Glad you are finding it useful. Anyone else want to share something that came up in their groups or personal reflection?
Okay. Hello?
Yes.
Yes, so this is Ibrahim from Bismuth Inc. We are talking about public campaign, which also was probably surrounding substance abuse and unhealthy food. But specifically, I'll probably discuss here about unhealthy food because for quite some time, we've been seeing kids, having food, eating food, eating unhealthy food. So, to probably mitigate that, we need to get the financial powers or the powerhouse within our community, like the merchandise, right, that do sell this product in our community. We need to bring them to the forefront, probably sign contract with them, even get the parents involved, because sometimes, again, I'm also a parent of 3, right? And, sometimes, we are aware of the fact that some of this food these kids do have, they are very unhealthy to them. But just because we just want them to ease or probably solve their short-term goals within that specific moment, we can't let go, but if we're consistent, if we are disciplined, when it comes to healthy eating or food, then definitely that will help out to like remedy some of this problem these kids face in our community, you know, in terms of obesity, in terms of other unhealthy health complication these kids face. So with that being said, I think you know, as I was saying earlier on, we just need to get the merchandise, you know, specifically regarding unhealthy food, and also families and other stakeholders in our community, you know, to solve some of this problem these kids do normally face in our community. Yeah.
Thank you, Abraham, for sharing. And you kind of just walked through the chart yourself. You know, you talked about some of the goals, some of the considerations to have for the constituents or allies that would be part of these groups, whether they're parents or young people, some considerations to have for them. And some of those to-dos which could be translated into tactics or tasks. And now thinking about like, who's the target? Like, are these tactics aligned with who we want to impact? So thank you for sharing and kind of giving us that walkthrough of what your group looked like. And Lorraine, I see your hand up. You want to share?
Sure. I just wanted to share that for us, what came out in our conversation was just how much work there is to do. Obviously that's not new, but just in kind of, you know, spilling it all out, it's all these moving pieces and just really coming down to how many personalities or pieces you have to include into your obstacles and planning, which is super unfortunate, but based on someone's personality or whoever's running that, you know, that position or running that organization, you have to be strategic on how you approach things. So that was just kind of what was surprising. I guess it shouldn't be surprising, but as we were talking about it and sharing, I guess I hadn't realized how many personalities are going to play a factor as we try to conquer this whole new area, at least for me. And I'm like, oh man, this is why I hadn't moved into this part, because I have no filter sometimes. But yes, so recognizing some of the work that has to be done internally and overall.
No, thank you so much for sharing. And I just want to validate everything you said. That's part of the emotional response that we get from doing campaign work. Is it's very overwhelming. Like, it moves not at the speed where community need it sometimes. But I think just with any overwhelming task, you know, it's been proven that planning takes off that edge. It helps that anxiety, it helps that stress management. So just like any think about this planning as like any opportunity to kind of decrease that stress. And I personally would rather know what's ahead of me than have it come as a surprise and not know what to do with it. At least I took the time to think about these potential issues or potential problems, or also potential wins. You know, what if you do get all the things that you want to get out of your campaign? And what if you do get that win? And what if you do make that difference? And, you know, we can go into that a whole lot more, but that's a great way to kind of recap this entire training. And thank you all so much for participating in today. You know, planning is part of the whole thing. It's in the beginning and in the after and in the post after. You might get your win, but can we make sure that everything that we said we wanted in the policy actually gets implemented? The planning continues. So for today, I hope that you got something out of this example, this really great example from Fresno. It has many different components. It's very complex, and we are doing our best to make sure to actually package that and be able to present it in a different way so that it's helpful for communities when they're also planning their own different campaigns, specifically around substance use prevention and thinking about it differently. You know, this was, you see retail licensing all the time with tobacco work, but very few are doing it with alcohol densities. So that's another innovation point from this policy win here. And that you walk away with some tools, just like we do the hard work of thinking about equity. And like, if you have some tools to kind of help you think through that, then your project is going to have so much more investment from community members most affected. So for today, we want you to take this training evaluation. Please take a moment or two to take a picture. To go through this QR. We're also going to share the link there on the chat and give us your honest feedback. We want to make these trainings the best possible that they can be, so that you get something out of it, and all of your feedback is a gift for us so that we can do better as well. And we'll stick around here for you all to, if you have any questions, or if you have any, you just want to do the training evaluation right now. And please remember that we have office hours. So if you, I shared with some of the groups that if you want to walk through this document with your team and bring it back to office hours, we got you, we can walk through it there. Or if you just want to talk more about the document, we could do it. And next office hours are October 11th. And yes, I can share the link once again here for the Survey Monkey. Thank you. Oh yeah, on September 27th, that's Yami's birthday. Yay.
I just wanted to say thank you. I don't think, when it comes to addressing alcohol advertising, I don't think people realize how big of a tiger that is to grab by the tail. So, that is amazing work. And, I just wanted to acknowledge the young folks and the organizations that really were organizing to make that happen. Now, believe me, that is a big tiger to grab by the tail.
Albert. Yami, do you have the link for the office hours? And after that, that's all we have for you. So if you are ready to leave us here, we'll be happy to get you going.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being here, for being in this space. We appreciate you all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Yes, you too.
Beautiful job, y'all. See you later.
Thank you so much, everyone. I think we have almost every slot filled up in these office hours.
Wow.
I'm looking at it right now. I was like, oh no, there's no. Okay, there's like a few. There's a couple of.
I have a quick question, sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
I had signed up for an office hour, but I haven't received like an invite or anything.
Okay. So what Sierra Health Foundation does is that they'll send you the link like closer to it. So probably like a week prior. So,
okay, because
yeah.
it's next week.
Yeah. Yes. So tell me because I can actually just give you the Zoom right now. Which one did you sign up for, if you don't mind sharing with me?
For the 27th at 12 p.m.
27th at 12 p.m. All right, cool. Okay, Jessica, I'm going to email it to you. Is that cool?
Yeah.
Okay, nice. All right. Bye.